Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Blair on the Air, the podcast, the most tremendous podcast you've ever heard. I am here with the legendary Ivy Blair, codename Yvonne Blair. She is a phenomenal teacher in the piano and vocal and also teaching teachers. And she has the awards to prove it. We're very grateful that she's here with us. She gets up very early in the morning. And then she is just like the Energizer Bunny. So this is not being filmed early in the morning, though. And we're also with Rebekah Agin, the queen of the piano at Blair Academy.
I was going to say, if you just stopped there, I'd say not the queen of the piano. At Blair. Maybe I could accept that.
At Blair. Always got to find the appropriate pond where you can shine. Yeah. So we hope everyone is having a wonderful week, and we have some cool stuff to talk about, but also we want to get to know some of the people that you might not see on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. So we will start with Becca. You've been teaching with us for a bit. You kind of have a wide array of interests and skills, but how did we actually meet? How did we stumble upon you and your piano gifts?
Kind of randomly.
Like, what's your side of this story?
It was at a volleyball game.
True.
Yes. And I was subbing for somebody. It's just like a community league. I was subbing for someone, but then they ended up having someone show up that could play. So then I'm just sitting there.
Oh, did you not actually play?
No. So I'm just sitting there, and somebody that knew Ivy, knew their family, the Blair family, the person I came with, he was like, oh, they're musicians. You just need to go talk to them. So he introduced me. And then I guess you were there just watching your husband play.
We were both just there watching.
Yeah, and then we ended up talking for like 2 hours while they were playing.
Really?
Yeah. It was a long conversation. She asked me about music, asked me about my degree, all kinds of things. And then we just...
And at the time...
Yeah, you just started.
We were teaching. So Mom has been a music teacher for significantly longer than I have because she taught me. Obviously, I can't teach if I don't know anything. So she was teaching me and was very encouraging for me to teach as well. And then we joined forces. We both taught out of your house. We both taught out of many churches. I think it was a church every day for a while.
It was. Johnson City Gray and Elizabethan.
Yeah. And we would cart around. You had a bunch of keyboards you'd use for ensembles.
Right. That's right.
We would unload them and pack them up every single day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was crazy. And then we had this dream of collaborating with other teachers and being able to do more things. But at the time we met Becca, we weren't having like posted job availabilities and doing interviews. It was more just trying to meet people and seeing where there might be a fit. And then did you...
But you had the space by that time that I met you guys.
Yeah, but just barely. We squeaked in there, swiping credit cards to buy paint and to try to turn it into a music school.
Yeah.
And we had mostly donated pianos.
And I was always looking for teachers. So anybody who could play the piano, I was always talking to them to find out what was going on. I'd bring the names back to Daniel. He would consider calling them in.
That is kind of crazy because you were subbing and doing some accompanying, but you weren't really looking for like a ton of teaching opportunities.
Well, I guess I kind of was because I didn't want to keep doing just what I was doing. But it didn't seem like this would be a full-time job. So I was like kind of looking at, well, I can do this and see what it turns into, and I'll keep doing these other things because I was working at like a bakery and doing some other stuff. But then it did turn into. Now
you're like the go-to. Yeah, like we have people that don't even know you who will send out a contact form to enroll in lessons. And they're like, just FYI, is there potential for us to study with, I think her name is Rebekah? And we've heard good things about her. Yeah, that's awesome, from total strangers.
That's great. And I hadn't really taught much before.
Yeah, so if you need to find quality musicians, we have like some tiers. There's a lot of great musicians. They have to want to teach, like enjoy working with kids and stuff, and adults. They have to have exceptional character because we're taking the trust of families and like putting you with a member of their family. And then they have to be dependable. And if you don't have those things, the skill doesn't matter. But I guess the moral of the story would be go play more volleyball games. You never know who you will run into.
Yeah, it was great. It was great timing on my end for sure.
But I do have to say, she's been with us a few years, and of all of our teachers, has been steadily getting better and better and better and better.
This is true. Wait, I teach.
Of all of the teachers.
All of them?
Forget this guy.
Oh, I worked really hard.
Yes.
I bought that Galamian book.
You did.
The
You
Art
did.
of the Violin. That's funny. So Mason and I invented a game, and it's pretty fun. So, we have our primary instrument, but there are violin, piano, voice, guitar, and cello at the academy. So we're going to assign to you an instrument that is not your own.
Oh, no.
And then I will get out a timer, and you will have a 60-second pitch of one of our instruments. Well, it has to be one that the other can critique. So let's see. Should we give her voice or violin?
Voice, because I've got to take violin.
Okay, that's true.
Yes.
You take violin, and that leaves me with piano, which, heads up, I play a little bit of piano, but you would not want me teaching your kid. I mean, we would just learn Great Balls of Fire. I would teach them nothing. They would be playing it like this. It would not develop the brain, nor would they ever get a college scholarship.
Oh, man.
All right, let's
On the
see.
spot.
So you're doing violin, and then I will judge it. I'll
Okay.
give you a grade. And then, Becca, since we've said such nice things about you, why don't you go first?
Oh.
Okay.
Do I have time to think about it, or I just gotta go? I just gotta go.
Yep, I think you just gotta go. I don't think they
voice.
want to wait. I mean-
Okay.
all right, you ready?
All right. Pitch for voice.
So this is
We'll see
like
what I can come up
someone
with. Okay.
just goes, "What instrument should I take?" And you're taking the role that the voice is the best instrument. You're trying to promote
This
it.
is hard to do when it's not yours.
I know. Yeah, because it's like, well, if I thought that. And
Yeah, if I thought that, what would I say? Oh
Becca,
my word. Okay.
why should I take the voice?
It's an instrument that everyone has and can develop, typically, which is, it's a very personal instrument, right? It's unique to you. You can develop the voice that you have that no one else has. There's an amazing range of repertoire for voice. So there's so much fun stuff from, you could be singing, well, if it's screaming, metal, to musical theater, to classic opera, to there's all kinds of literature out there. I think it's really fun. You get to sing in different languages often. Often your teacher will make you sing in different languages, which is also a good experience. And voice has a lot of acting to it. So if you enjoy more of the entertainment side of music, voice would probably suit you well, because you need to have expression and acting and involvement in your music with a lot more facial and body expression than maybe a lot of other instrumentalists. So I did pretty good, I think.
Boom! Yeah, that was awesome.
I think so.
I do enjoy the voice.
That was
I
a different
appreciate it.
approach than I took.
My best friends while I did my music degree were mostly vocalists, so heard plenty of it.
Nice.
And appreciated their talent a lot.
You know what I should have started with, Mason? I didn't think about it at the time. It's like, do you like being the center of attention?
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, it's true.
All right.
It is good for that.
So what did you really like that she said? And then what might you have said differently? And then give her a
me a
grade.
Oh boy.
Well, I love the fact that she gave the ability to have this expression, autonomy with who you are, how to express that, and everything in your voice is unique to you. And I think people like to feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just thought that was very good.
What would you have added to it
Oh
if you were talking
man,
to
I thought it was very comprehensive.
write
I
it
thought it was good. I thought
Yay.
I need to have her doing the sample lessons.
New job. What would her grade be?
I would give her A+ on that.
Wow.
Yes.
One. Yeah, that was
Wow.
good. I was
Yeah,
very
yeah.
impressed.
Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that mean you have to reciprocate the A+ no matter?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll be
I'll
judging
give an
me
honest
too.
grade. I'll give an honest grade.
All right. I will go next. What am I promoting?
Piano.
Piano. Okay.
So you get two judges.
I get
That's
two
true, you
judges.
get
Okay.
double.
You
You
guys
get-
can both grade me.
Okay.
Piano. It means quiet. How would you like to play an instrument that from day one you are making the same quality of sound as someone who might have studied for some period of time? Like day one, you can learn a song. A piano is not just an instrument, it's also a beautiful piece of furniture. They're found all over the place. How many times do you go, oh look, there's a piano, I wish I could play it? With no other support, you can make such a complete representation of a piece with rhythm and different chord progressions and the melody. So it can be incredibly dynamic. But when you are ready to collaborate with people, you can vastly raise the quality of what they're doing. Vocalist or strings or even accompany an entire choir, you are able to do all these things with these 10 little fingers, and it's magical from day one. Okay.
Pretty good. I'm going to let you go first.
Oh.
What do you like that I said? What might you have added, or what did you not like that I said, maybe? Under scrutiny.
You go first.
Okay.
They both hate it.
No,
Piano. I think I love what you said. I think I love the idea of from day one you can produce a sound that is pleasant.
Yes.
Yes.
That's and you can teach a song that is discernible. Anybody can hear.
It's rewarding.
Three
quickly.
Blind Mice or Hot Cross Buns, and they know what you're playing.
Yeah.
Jingle bells.
And you can also use the piano. I would have added that it is a great instrument for learning just a few things. You can do a lot of improv. You can go into your own creativity. And but most of all for piano, I think it's such a basic instrument for anything you do. For drums, for voice, for violin. It's just the basic
just
foundation.
As a learning tool.
Yeah, it helps you in theory. It opens the door to comprehensive theory, to understand what's happening in the whole harmonic area and arena of what you're working with. I love the piano for that reason.
Yeah.
And so I think it should be the basis of any instrument.
Yeah, I would have added that. I'd give you like an A or a B plus. I think I would have added
Sounds
that.
like a polite B minus. Doesn't it?
I think I would have added that it's a really good visual, like you just said, for a basis for other instruments. So like if you're going to be any sort of music major, you're going to have to deal with music theory. If you're a voice teacher or a vocalist, you'll be much more impressive and more of an asset if you can actually sight read music, if you can play things along with yourself or someone else. And it's just most people like a good visual. Like not everyone is a quote unquote visual learner, maybe, but all of us can be helped by visuals. And I think the piano is one of the most solid visuals for music theory and a good basis for
B plus or
other
perhaps
things.
A minus. What do you give
So
me?
I would have given you a B plus because I thought you were really general.
yeah, it was a little general, but
That's
it had
a
some
step
good
up.
points.
Mason gave me a B in voice. So I'm on my way to the honor roll.
And the tone thing, I was a little bit like, I mean, you can create consistent tones by plunking a note, but really a lot of nuance of piano comes in when you're playing multiple notes at once. Now, what tone can
Like
you get from
voicing
different
it?
fingers?
Yeah.
Yeah, voicing
Yeah.
it, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I
there's
do
more
agree with
complex
this.
stuff there.
Yeah. It's just, I was thinking on the spot, guys. And all I think about is how people start from piano and go to violin, and then they're like, this is hard.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
maybe
So you
a
can't make the
downside.
same tone.
I just think piano is one of the most
make
dynamic.
a
If you want to
pleasant
be
tone. That's how you
powerful,
said it.
if you want to be powerful, the piano
Oh,
is
yeah,
such
it's
an
super
awesome
so much.
instrument for that.
That's why he likes to plunk.
Other than drums, Yeah, but of course they're both percussive instruments.
All right, we're ready
right.
for Miss Ivy's pitch on why the violin is
Okay.
the greatest instrument, why you should study the violin. You ready?
Yes.
And go.
The violin is declared to be the most difficult instrument to play. So for you to want to even attempt it says so much about your brain and your enthusiasm and your ambition, because it develops these fine motor skills in both hands, but especially right now, initially in your the fingers,
left
Yes. And then you've got your bow. But there are so many intricacies in violin that you do not have in other instruments, and it is the closest to the human voice. So if you really want to sing with your violin, that I think the expression and the ability to create intimate expression is so valuable. Then you can use it in the band, in the orchestra. You can use it in a small band. You can do bluegrass. There's so many identifiable genres with the violin, and it's just so much fun in what you can do with it. So I think you want
Nice.
to take violin.
That was really good. The first part of there, I was like, man, I hadn't
you're
thought to
scaring
talk
people.
about it like that. No, I was like, I love starting with that. That was really good.
Yeah.
I give you an A.
Okay.
Not an A plus. Because, A minus, because I thought of another thing.
Okay.
The string family is kind of declared to be the violin.
Most
So like
difficult.
G below middle C is as low as we can go. But cellos have a range pretty much as high as we do. So cellos has a more complete range of the human voice.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's like in the same family. So I don't mind that pitch, but you could make the same pitch for cello.
Right.
Okay.
If you were a bass.
We should talk about the portability of it, that it can
yes.
just go
Oh,
anywhere
yes.
over the strings. I love that you
I'm
said
jealous of that.
basically the folksy part, like it's not too fancy, it's not too down to earth, like it fits all those. And then the last thing, a really important thing, is you get to play the melody so often.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, which is contrary to maybe pitching the viola or the upright bass, is that they're often in, I mean, they do write great melodies for them, but violin, it almost unfairly gets a lot of the melody. So yeah, I think the portability side and then you get the melody is a great pitch because
Yeah,
that can
good
carry you
too.
through
Yeah.
all the difficulty. But I love the difficulty. That was awesome. So we also have a strong emphasis on performance.
Yes.
It's not easy. It's hard to learn an instrument even in the safety of your room or with your teacher. But physically, a lot of things change when you get one take in front of people and it's all live. Your body feels different. Usually dressed different. There's a lot of different things. So for you guys, are there any advice, tidbits that you have, or maybe little superstitious rituals? If you have something that you're participating in that's really important, do you have like a go-to, kind of like what you do that day, ways to warm up, or maybe something you eat, or how you prepare your mind for something that's actually challenging you? What do you think?
Well, I don't do a whole lot of solo performing these days. So sometimes I feel a little bit guilty for that when I have my students go up and play by themselves.
What if you're accompanying someone
But-
for a very important
Yeah,
competition?
I
Like
have
that's
been
a big
nervous
deal.
for something like
want-
that. Yeah, I do a lot of accompanying. So I do play in public and in church settings or in concert settings a lot. But I typically don't get as nervous for that as I do for solo things. But I can think of one kind of high pressure. I was like helping this guy audition for some roles, a vocalist. And something that I do, I try to over prepare like a tempo. So if I think that this tempo somebody's gonna take is about here, I try to prepare for up here so that it feels slow when I go to play for them.
How do you pull that tempo out of the bag? Because that's actually, they really rely on you for that.
Well, we always check tempi before we do things like that. But typically I'll go on YouTube and just watch like 4 or 5 different performances of that same aria or piece.
But if you have to back accompany
how do I
different
remember?
people, how do you get in that
I don't
vibe?
really
real
know.
quick?
I just like
'Cause I feel like that's a big strong suit of
Well,
yours.
you can trust more experienced singers to take the tempo that they want. So I'm listening. The second that they come in, whether if they start it or if I've started it and I was a little slow or fast, the second they come in, I'm hearing like the little micro adjustment that they're making, like getting to their next note slower or faster. So
Will
I
you
can like
teach a
follow them.
vocalist to go ahead and take their tempo, even if that's
Oh,
not what
yes,
they're presented
absolutely.
with?
That is one of the hardest
Absolutely.
things about students
It
is
is.
that they don't do that well. They
Because
think that the adults always right.
They could conceivably do the whole
Yeah.
thing and be like, man, I don't feel good about that. It was too slow.
Exactly. They'll
Yeah.
tell me at the end, and I'm always like, never just tell me at the end. Either do it or
Mm-hmm.
stop me and say that was much too slow or too fast. Like if you're uncomfortable, either fix it yourself in the moment, and if you can't do that, like you don't know how to take your tempo with the piano going a different speed, then just stop and tell me. Like let me know how much faster or slower to
I
go,
do
'cause
instruct
professionals
them,
will.
but it takes,
It takes
years
practice.
for them to get that confidence to be able to
Yes.
defy an authoritative figure.
Yeah,
because,
exactly.
Yeah.
It
Because
feels
their
that way.
accompanist as a student is an authoritative figure.
Yeah.
So they just kind of believe they're going to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it's always a collaboration, and we're trying to teach that.
Yeah.
But it's a whole subject in itself. Is
And
working
then
with
that is usually, that's required for a lot of solo instruments, unless the music's written to be unaccompanied.
You mean
right?
that you understand how to work with a
that
I'm
collaboration.
like, it's not really an option to just say, hey, I'm going to go compete and I don't want to deal with that
Right,
interaction.
right.
So I'm just going to sing everything without it. It's like
You
a
have to-
requirement if the
yeah.
piece is written
Yeah,
in that
that's
way.
right.
So kind of little hot
Yeah, we
take
went
here.
on our rabbit trail there.
For a long time, the phrase accompanist was standard, but that's like going away, pretty much gone away.
Yeah,
Becomes collaborative pianist. Mm-hmm. What are your feelings on that? Do you feel like that comes with more like prestige, that it's a joint thing? Is it more respectful? Do you not really care?
I hadn't thought of it too much because I hadn't thought about that collaborative pianist, that phrase wasn't really a thing a while back, because I've been hearing that phrase,
for a bit,
both phrases together, since I did my bachelor's. But then when I started looking at master's degrees, which I didn't go on and do, but that's still, it's collaborative piano was something I was thinking about possibly doing more school in, but I still do it. I was like, oh, they're calling this degree collaborative piano. I was like, that makes sense, because you're no less important, sense. And you're just as much a part of the music as the soloist. So,
and you're saying your instrument in there.
Yeah, it's saying the
like
instrument.
Violinist Daniel Blair, accompanied by Rebekah Agin. Like it's more like, here's your performers. Mm-hmm. Violinist, collaborative pianist.
Yeah, and it's still understood that the piece is kind of about the violin or about the oboe or whatever it is. But it's not just about them. Like, you know what I mean? They're going to be acknowledged. They're going to be bowing. They're just as much of the part of the music, and because what would it sound like without the pianist? So I love that. I think it's a great phrase. I think it makes a lot more sense. And also the degrees I looked into, it was if you look this up, typically it's like, and vocal coaching is like another part of it. So you're able to give more advice to the people that you're like, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but you're able to give more coaching.
Was it rabbit?
No. Oh. More expert coaching and advice to the person that you're accompanying, that you're collaborating with. It'd be very helpful. Like one time in college, I corrected a singer. I was like, I've heard this piece a bunch of times and they're saying this Italian word wrong. So I told them. Yeah. So knowing those kinds of things is very helpful, and people appreciate it when you know your stuff. So. Italian
is a magical language. Hey, why are so many expressive terms and defining terms in music Italian?
I just had a student ask me that this week.
Well, I don't know.
I kind of half made up an answer.
Okay.
Well, I feel... So if anyone out there is like,
where's Mason when I need him?
I'm sorry. Yeah, where's Mason? For real. He's really good with
he would love
theory.
This
He's
trivia.
Fresh on theory and history more than most of us.
It's like another layer. It's like level 1 theory is like, what do these terms mean? And like level 2 is like, why? Oh, man.
I don't know. I mean, there's definitely others. Like obviously there's a lot of French and Italian, French and German, depending on what composers that you're playing.
There is.
But I guess Italy
like
was just...
dynamically.
Italy was just such a hot spot for opera. Opera was huge, right? In its peak of classical opera, you know?
I mean, you talk about string instruments and just all these names, Guarneri, Stradivari, like they all come from these Italian violin makers.
Italian.
An interesting question would even be when they even started putting these expression marks in the music.
I was thinking that. I was going to be like Olive Garden and stuff.
Fazoli's has a drive-through. Not hating on it.
But it's helpful that it kind of coalesced into a lot of Italian, because otherwise it gets a little...
What are 3 of your favorite Italian words of expression or dynamics? Ooh, I'll start. Dolce. I love the word dolce. It looks... I actually worked at Olive Garden. Dolce means sweetly, and they would have these little tiny treats, and they'd call them dolcinis, which mean like little sweets.
Yeah.
And I don't know, something about even how you see it on the page. And the same thing with students. Once they learn it once, they're like, oh, I remember what that means. So that's a good one. Pesante is one that I like a lot.
Heavy,
It means like heavily. I always just feel like it's just... And here's like, and he shall reign for.
Yeah,
those are all good ones. And then anything with the multiple Easymos is always a fan favorite with the kids.
Yes, it is.
They're like, fortissimo.
What if there's 2 Fs and you're like, it's fortissimo? What if there's 3 Fs, fortissimo? They're like, you're kidding.
You're kidding me.
That's a joke.
It's like, how do you get louder than super loud? It's like, everyone raise your hand as high as you can. Raise it higher. Yeah, you can just keep going forever. What are your terms?
I like vivace.
Ooh.
Because fast.
Yeah.
And,
lively,
full of life.
Vigorous.
Yes, I like that.
Any more? Is that the only one?
Rubato. I do like
Ooh.
rubato.
I like taking rubato.
Yes, but I like that word.
If you don't know
because-
that word, it's a delicious kind of tart plant that you can make pies
Word.
of. Rhubarb.
It's kind of like you can do what you want.
Yeah.
You
But
have
you got to stay
creative
within rhythm, but you can
liberties.
spread it out or you can.
Take your liberties.
Yes.
Presto. It sounds like pesto, but it's not.
All of these are making me hungry. Literally, I said dolce, and then I kind of shoehorned rhubarb into
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And now
then
pesto.
mezzo forte, and kids will say mezzo. I'm like, no, like pizza is a double Z.
Yeah.
Double Z.
Mezzo.
Pizza forte. Pizzicato. Oh, I like that word
Yeah,
too.
yeah, that's a
There's
good
so
one.
many. Staccato, I think, is great because it sounds like what it is. It's like short and detached. Like that staccato.
Yes.
Yeah.
Smooth.
It started to bother me lately that we pluralize Italian words with English plural, adding S's.
Really?
It's right. It's not supposed to be staccatos. Like, play the staccatos. It would be staccati.
Ah,
Staccati,
Oh,
right?
yes.
I'm not sure if I'm saying that well.
Scarlatti.
But yeah, you don't say. It's like in.
Watch
so
the
in
fortes.
In Hindi, yeah.
I'm forteing.
They'll use English words, but then they'll pluralize the English word. Like, they'll say bottle. They use the word bottle, but then they'll pluralize the English word
Oh.
with their plural, which is like an A sound. So then they'll say bottle, which is bottles. And you're like, why would you do that?
Why
in
is
English?
it? You're so close.
Every like the whole like
sure we do
past
that a
like 3
lot.
months, I've been thinking, don't say staccatos.
Don't do it.
It's improper.
Was
but
that more?
anyway,
Was there more that
rabbit
you
trail.
had? I forget how many. I knew rabbit. Rabbit. It was coming. I knew that was the word she was
What was
looking
it?
for. Earlier she said, I can't think of the word. And I was
He
like,
was
is it
like,
rabbit?
rabbit?
And
I
I
was like,
feel
no.
like I planted rabbit.
No, I said rabbit trail earlier though.
You
I
planted
it
rabbit.
in your head.
Nice. Becca, since you talked about Hindi, you are quite a dedicated traveler. Like you have crossed some inconvenient, like both with work and I'm sure your personal life, to do some pretty extensive traveling for more than just like a weekend at a time. So what are some of your favorite places in the world you've been to? And what was kind of some takeaways or things that you noticed was vastly different than East Tennessee, where we reside?
Very different. I think my 2 favorite places have been Israel and India. And I've been to some other places as well, like Haiti and Costa Rica and Italy.
I love Costa Rica. That's the only
Costa
place I've been
Rica's,
of all the ones.
yeah, I have not.
I feel like it looks
even
like
barely
East Tennessee a little bit. We took a bus
I
ride all the
agree.
way across.
I
It's like
agree.
East Tennessee, and then you see the monkeys and the lizards. You're like,
So
maybe
yeah,
it's
depending
not.
on where you are.
And there's
for
a
sure.
beach.
But I did a big hike from this mountain down through the woods, and I
Yeah.
was like, I might as well be in woods in East Tennessee,
Yeah.
except for a couple of plants. Like
Yeah,
it was.
it is kind of
interesting.
funny. You're like, okay, we're gonna go hike Buffalo Mountain and then surf.
Yeah,
It's pretty
yeah, it's
crazy.
really cool. I didn't get to go to the ocean. That was like, it was a very specific trip to this one camp in the middle of the mountains.
There's one
But-
tree.
Yeah,
Okay,
Israel and
so
Italy.
Israel. What was the
Israel,
takeaway from Israel? What was
Ancient history there is insane. Like my mind was just blown. Like every
Jonesboro
single
is the
day.
oldest town in Tennessee.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, yeah, the oldest places in America are just can't hold a candle
It's not
to
even close.
other parts of the world.
There's a quote. It's like in Europe though, because Europe's got a lot of ancient history there too.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll say like
Pretty old.
Europeans think. Americans think that 200 years ago was a long time,
Yeah.
and Europeans think that 200 kilometers is a long way.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
So I think that was my favorite thing about Israel, and the food too.
Yeah.
It's like amazing. Like just the Mediterranean, Middle Eastern. Is just,
Mediterranean
oh man,
food
it's
is
so
yummy.
good. And then I also saw a chameleon in the wild for the first time ever. In
A
Israel,
real
just
chameleon?
walking across
How
the
did you
street.
see it?
It was
If
adorable.
camouflaged.
They're not always camouflaged, but it was on the ground. Like we were on this.
Did other people think
cobblestone
it was adorable?
area? Well, all the girls I
Becca
was with
likes
were
creepy
like,
things.
I do. I love little creatures, and I was gonna pick it up, and they were like, "Don't touch it! You don't know what it'll do." I was like, "It's a chameleon." They're like, "Don't touch it! Don't touch it!" So I just listened to them and didn't pick it up. But
Do you remember what Becca brought to one of the first recitals? We had a little studio recital at the Academy. Do you remember what she brought with her?
It was a reptile of some
No.
kind. Or
No,
was
it
it?
was another creepy.
it was.
It's a big old tarantula.
Oh, it was a tarantula.
And
yeah.
she had it in this flimsy little plastic, like
This
Tupperware.
is, okay, one of my pet peeves is that everyone thinks tarantulas can just lift off the cover of
They're
whatever
very
they're in.
strong
Just because
looking.
they're scared of it. They can't
They have
do that.
chest
They
hair.
can't.
They're strong.
Do you still have it?
So I've had multiple
Don't
tarantulas,
tarantulas
but I
live
don't
like
have any
40
right
years
now.
long or something?
No, I think my first one lived about six 6 years, 7 years, and then
That's a long
something
time.
went wrong when she was like molting, changing, like discarding her outer skin, and then she passed away.
I'm sorry.
died.
My condolences.
But yeah, I brought one only because I had just bought it on sale, and it was the dead of winter, and it could not stay in my car.
Yeah, she just came in.
So
We
I
didn't
put
know
it
each
in the
other
back
especially
room.
well.
Yeah.
So it's like, I
And
didn't
then
really have
asked-
the ability to say no. I was just freaked out. She's like, hey, we're about to play. So right before it started,
Yeah.
she's like, is there a place I can put this little guy or girl, whatever? You're like, so that he doesn't freeze. I'm like, yeah, what do you got? Spider. And then I didn't know what to do, so I just put it back in my room. And then I think I made you put something on top of it anyway.
Yeah.
Like on top of the thing. And the entire recital, all I can visualize
Is this
is
thing
going in
probably
there and there's an
falling out?
empty container.
No. Yeah, everyone thinks that, but they can't do that.
Oh, I would just have freaked out.
Yeah, but anyway.
I try not to be super
I have
freaked out about things.
not
but
seen a
even-
tarantula in the wild. That would be fun. But yeah, I think I guess they have them in India. I actually haven't researched.
What's your
tarantulas in
takeaway
India.
from India?
India is, if you want to go somewhere that's the most different from East Tennessee that you can possibly get, India would be a good spot to go to, I think.
Aren't there pretty, like India's huge.
Yeah, so it's very
It's like
diverse.
you can kind of get different India
Oh,
experiences
very. I
as
mean,
well.
if
yeah.
you go to Mumbai, it's like a world-class city. They have everything, but down to from the richest billionaires down to people that have nothing. in the
Poorest
slums.
billionaires.
Yeah, even farther down. The
No, okay.
But you can go to like cities that some people don't understand how modern India has become in cities, especially. And then you can go to like, I've been to villages that are just kind of out of the way, like out there. And that's really different too. Like, I mean, the culture is just so varied. There are like 7, 8 or 9 official languages of the country because there are so many languages that hold that kind of weight. Hindi is one of the more common, so that's something that I've spent quite a bit of time studying. I am not conversational, but I can understand quite a bit and have a pretty big vocabulary for how much study I've done, but I can't wait till I'm conversational in Hindi. And until I can hear people talking about me when I'm there and be like, just talk to them. You're like, I know what you're saying.
So you're bilingual, and I kind of include instrument study with languages when I talk to people. I'm like, I don't think anyone grows up and regrets that they can play a piano well or that they can, read music
I
or
tell kids
appreciate that. I think the same thing about a language. I've never heard someone complain like, "Oh, I hate that I can
spent
speak
all this
3
time."
languages. I just hate it."
Yeah.
I just
for
know
sure.
everything everyone is saying.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, but it doesn't happen by itself. I mean, I guess it does in some parts of the world, but like the
Yeah.
brain has to develop that skill set regardless.
Yeah. So it's
Do you
hard
regret
to do,
that
though.
you can speak multiple languages?
Absolutely not.
And your Spanish probably helps you with the other Latin
It does.
languages.
It does.
Yeah, the root words. That helps me a ton just from some Latin I did in
Forte,
school. And,
fuerte.
yeah.
It's
root
not
words help me
just
a lot.
pronouncing it, it's knowing the meanings because you want to know what you're singing about, especially. So,
We would like that. Some of the students don't care.
no, they just
I don't
sing
think
word
they
by
do.
word, just syllable by syllable.
You're like, that's what is happening here. It's like they have a box that they're checking off. Like,
Yeah,
note,
right,
note,
that's right.
note,
That's
note,
it.
note.
Yeah.
That's it.
Done. How was
Because
it?
it doesn't sound like words if it's
No,
not in your
yeah.
heart language.
Yeah.
Something that you know. So it's hard to.
Yes.
That's pretty
communicate
funny. I don't think we actually got a lot of performance rituals, but I think that's okay.
No, because we got into the
I got
collaborative
sidetracked.
piano.
Oh, I can tell
Collaborative
mine.
piano. Yeah. What gets you ready for a performance?
I have when you fool around with your instrument, there are songs you like to play, that you always go to. And just no matter what, whether you walk into somebody's house or you walk into the studio, I have kids sit down, they play whatever song that they like. And I have a song, usually for both piano and voice, that I'll warm up and then I will sit down and play that song every time because it releases tension, relaxes my mind, usually puts my voice and or fingers where they need to be to play, the sensitivity.
I think that you don't have to develop a ritual, but you get so busy the day of performance and stuff, and especially getting ready, getting, hair and makeup or costume or even just dressing up. And it's really easy to not prioritize warming up on your instrument. So don't do that. Don't do that. It would be better to sacrifice a certain percentage of beauty, in my opinion, to get yourself ready to do what you're there to do. I guess it depends on whether you're doing it as a student or doing it for pleasure or doing it for money. I guess I'm really talking about for some sort of stakes. But if someone's paying you, obviously you have to take that seriously. I have done, free church gigs, just trying to help someone out or kind of just for the love of it. And sometimes it's really inconvenient. I'll say, hey, do you have a room I can warm up in? And sometimes people are even going like, really? Aren't you ready to play? Especially if they know you as being a skilled musician. They're like, really? Like in there, hitting those scales. How does it feel?
That's right.
Getting warmed up, getting my body ready to play far more than playing the music. So I've been asking my students that question this year. It's like nobody has answers. I'm like, what do you do before you play? And they're like, oh, I just kind of freak out for a minute.
Yeah. I mean, same in a way. I set out to do my best, but I always set the bar low. But that's just kind of how I am. I would rather be surprised at how well it went than be crushed that it didn't go perfectly.
You are unbelievably consistent, though. You always look the same in terms of you sit there and you're you do the thing, and then afterwards you'll be like, I'm happy with that. You'll be like, that wasn't great.
Yeah.
But it's all presented
but
the exact same.
I honestly, mentally though, I set my bar low, not because I don't care about if I'm getting paid or it's for, anytime it's for a vocalist, I care about how it turns out for them and that it supports them well and everything. So I do really care, but in my mind I'm thinking if everything goes terribly, I'm okay with that. That's kind of what I tell my students. That's a good way to do it.
By the time you're over there playing, you can get some water if you need to. It's not a big deal.
Anyway.
That's funny. Yeah. All right, another pop quiz question. If you were an instrument, become an instrument, not your primary instrument, what would it be? What represents your personality?
Viola.
A viola.
What? That came quickly.
I just thought of what's the instrument that gets ignored a little bit. It's kind of in the mix, and it's kind of everything else.
You are
always
special.
Compare it to other things.
Mom talks about you at every single recital.
Because it's that's true. Because it's kind of like a mishmash. You think of it as it's not. You think
not
of
a cello.
No, I don't know. Now I'm deciding maybe I'm not.
That's okay.
Because we usually define viola by it's like this and it's like this, and we don't say.
You're just off the beaten path.
Yes.
It's an instrument that's not as mainstream.
Yeah, not as mainstream. Kind of fits in different places.
People only play it because they love it.
Yes.
Or because they want money.
So people only friends with me if they really.
I feel like if they're friends with you, then it's because they actually like you.
Well, I hope that's true. Yeah.
Be good. Not just because they get to play the melody.
Yeah.
What instrument would you?
Mine would be flute.
Really?
Yeah. Because it's.
You were a soprano?
Yes.
She's empty inside.
Oh, that's terrible.
I like the sound, of course. I'd rather be petite.
Okay, so
you have lots of holes in you. I'm just trying to think of
those are so mean. Is this because of the viola thing? Shiny.
Yeah, because you're shiny. I'm just kidding.
The flute.
I think that's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick a different one. I just want to be just a timpani roll, just like a tremolo crescendo.
Yeah.
Bam.
So you're a lot of noise with some tone.
I'm flashy noise. Get your attention. We have a good time, and leave me alone while I cook up my next roll.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
I agree with that
I think
one.
that works.
Yeah.
Crash, and then bide my time and wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's good. I do like that you can put a lot of personality into the instrument that you already play. That's pretty good, So it's whatever your viola tendencies are, you can bring that through in a piano. You can go find maybe some subtleties that aren't what I play. I love to bang on a piano. I'm a party pianist. It probably drives you. Does it actually drive you crazy?
I told someone the other day. Somebody said, it was one of my students. What did they say? They heard you playing, and they were just like, man, like it sounds really good or something like that.
You're like, no, it doesn't. Let me tell you why.
No, it wasn't like that.
My
Like, I can't
goal
remember what
is
they
that
said, but-
pianists are
Yeah.
instantly aware, like skilled pianists are instantly aware that they are much better than me in so many aspects, and that they are largely rolling their eyes and just 1% frustrated that I managed to, in the havoc, do something cool.
Oh, yeah,
just
yeah.
one.
No, he did
That's
very cool
that's all that
things.
it is.
Because, like, I'm not the person that has just, like, cool riffs in my head to just pull out willy-nilly. And he has, like, 303 of them, where I have, like, 3 of them in my head.
But they were built one at a time over an excruciating,
you
repetitive
'cause
cycle.
You like to mess around, and I don't mess around. I play off of sheet music constantly. That's what my forte is sight reading. So I'm not the noodler. I'm not the messer arounder. So one of my students said something about you, and I was like, he drives me nuts sometimes. And then told
It
him,
is not to
It
be
was so funny.
modeled after.
Well,
it is
no.
merely only for my own personal
No,
pleasure.
but it's creativity.
I like to
think
get.
it's great.
There was a sweet spot because you gave me a great foundation, and even when I was maybe 11 or 12 or something, you would let me demonstrate for students because I had like more of a relaxed method of getting into the piano and stuff. But then, as I only played party stuff, that's actually a great example because if piano had been my primary instrument, I think I'm well suited for it. I think I've been
Yeah.
a really good
Oh, yeah.
pianist. So the fact that I deviated to only playing what I love massively put a ceiling on not only my skill, but my technique. A big, big ceiling. And I still have a good time. But if I didn't have that outlet for violin, it'd be extremely frustrating if that's how I
Probably.
ended up.
Probably.
Yeah.
But at some point, probably wasn't worth it for you to continue to hold me accountable to piano technique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's the crazy
And doing
person.
2 things at once as a kid or a teenager, like trying to be masterful at both, I imagine. Because it's hard enough to try to be masterful at just violin, right?
Yeah, I don't
took
know
a
that
lot
you're
of
even
time.
trying to be masterful. That's why I don't listen to what students play. You want to be the best that you can be, but really, if you did, you'd probably live your life differently. You have the desire to be, but as a teenager, it is just darn near impossible
Yeah.
to consistently make sacrifices on your own accord for your future.
I
It's-
agree. It's very hard. Like,
Yeah.
it's the rare person. Like you see these kids online sometimes, where it's like they are self-motivated, just driven to do something. And I don't think everyone needs to be like that, and very few people are.
No.
So it takes a lot of external force.
But the
to
rarity
get
should
someone-
be observed. It's
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
It's
Well, I heard a psychologist, a woman was complaining about her son, and the psychologist said, "Do you not know that the brain that teaches people to think long term is not even developed until they're in their 20s?"
Yeah, mid-20s.
So kids
Yeah.
don't really
Or
even
late.
have that.
They all do that.
Yeah.
They put the little toddlers there and they give them the cookie and they're like, if you don't eat this, you
Yeah.
can have 2 later or whatever. It's like,
And the younger
why are you
they-
doing this with a toddler?
Yeah.
You can do it with me right now. I'll sit there, I'll look at it, I'll be like, well, you know what? I don't need 2 cookies because there would be too many cows. I'm just going to eat this.
Yeah. It's
Now
very
what? Can I
hard.
have the other cookie?
Yep.
You just learn to ask. That's pretty crazy. I don't even remember where that question started from. What did I say?
I don't really remember either.
All
What
right.
is it should be a funny question.
Okay.
What is y'all's most stressful music related memory?
Oh, when I was playing for a wedding,
Performance related?
Just music related.
Okay.
and
Just
I
like
was
telling musician
I was
poetry.
playing an organ, which is not my instrument.
Yeah.
And I was playing the final bum 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 bum
wanted
bum.
that?
Oh yes. And I had these 2 levels of this was a massive organ, and
man.
the ceremony was over and my fingers were off a step. So I started playing.
Is it you in that video on YouTube?
No, no,
I'm
this
seeing
was so many
organ
years
fails.
ago. And they were walking out and everybody was so happy and I knew it was happening and it sounded grotesque. So I decided I was going to do it again and redo it, right? I could not. I tried 3 times. I could not get my hands
Are
on the
you
right
sure?
notes.
that you're not on YouTube? That is exactly the YouTube
be
video
rich.
I've seen.
That
YouTube
was
rich.
live.
Exactly.
That was
Copyright
live.
I know, but this is an older video that is on YouTube.
I don't think so. I don't
There's
think
an organ
I
fail.
don't even
I hope
and
not.
Somebody is like just totally messing up that exact piece. I think.
Oh, it was
might be famous.
terrible. It was terrible.
Your face isn't in it if it's
Yeah, and I never played a wedding after that.
darn. That's rough.
I've been
What about you?
lucky that my train wrecks have either not bothered me, because the fact that those stakes are there is what makes, I feel like it's like bungee jumping. You know you might die, and that's why it's thrilling. So that part doesn't bother me as much. It's when I like let other people down and get called out for it. Yeah, and that's probably more with teaching. If I get frustrated with a student in terms of not able to capture their attention, they're not liking what they're playing, even though I feel like I've already made tons of concessions.
Right, and they're still unhappy.
Yeah, and so I'm just trying to get outside the box, or maybe even I get a little lazy in terms of it's easier just to play around with them, ask them about their basketball games or whatever. Just trying to get back on track in some way. And then a parent like really hits me over not doing my job, which is to teach them violin, and I don't hear any violin playing in there, and there's always talking, or you're just goofing off. And so, because it's kind of true, part of me thinks that's true, but I usually only reach that because I have tried this other stuff. It's not working.
Yeah, and you need to
So,
build relationship,
yeah.
and you need it to be like they want to
So
come
it's
back.
when I'm already thinking these things and I'm a little bit scrambly,
Yeah.
and then a parent who's probably just having a bad day and cares about their kid like lets you have it kind of to your face, which is very rare. But I'm just like, because I don't feel like I have a defense at all, you know.
Yeah, it's like a
and
lot
then
to explain.
yeah, or if a student quits very abruptly, you know, we had that happen this year. Absolutely one of my favorite students. And I just dropped the ball administratively and with some schedules, but the lessons, I was like, man, really loved working with this kid. And I was, you know, pointed out that we had, you know, not made up some lessons that we should have in a timely manner and stuff like that. So that, my music-related memory, that's by far the worst. I've had other things happen, but they don't feel the same when it's part of the game. Like you feel like, yeah, at some point, messing up in front of everyone's bound to happen. But I feel like the other one can be avoided. I don't really see people. I don't see people do that to you and stuff like that. So
providing quality.
yeah,
Good that you care about that, though. I mean,
I suppose it is, but
yeah.
does not feel good.
No.
What do you have? What do you
Well,
have?
the one that always jumps into my mind was I was playing for a vocal competition, and I was just like kind of on call. Like I wasn't there to accompany specific people. I was there available, and I was accompanying this whole room of competitors. It was like college age competitors. And so there was an optional pre-round practice time. So people would show up for a time slot, 10 minutes or less, that they would like just sign up for, and it was optional. And just to touch on their tempi and then run through their music a little bit. Well, half the competitors didn't do that. You know, and so when they walked into the room, when I was sitting there with the judges, the 30 seconds between them handing me the music, putting it on the piano, and then being ready to start was all I had to look at the music. And this one girl, she was singing, I think it was Quilter, Rabbit at Top Speed. Do you know what that is? I've probably told you this story
Rabbit?
before. Literally called Rabbit. Yeah, there's the rabbit. Again. Rabbit at Top Speed. I look at the title and I'm like, shoot. This is. And I look at the music and this is good and bad. It was like very atonal, which means the notes go everywhere and it doesn't sound like I was about to say to non-musicians, but to even musicians, you hear just
not
this.
intuitive.
It sounds crazy. It's not
like,
intuitive.
oh yeah, that's right.
It's not this beautiful melodious sound. It's like, bop, 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 bop. That's what it sounds like. So I look at the title, I look at the music, which is just black with accidentals, which are like added sharps and flats and naturals. And I was like, and I have 30 seconds to just scan these 2 pages before I have to play it for this girl. Woo, that was so stressful.
So you
it was
just
so stressful.
you just looked at it and you're like, we're in trouble. We're in trouble.
Like oh, beam me up, Sky, please.
Is there a way,
Yeah.
if it's that bad in that short a time, you're just like, you know what, whatever happens, happens?
Exactly. That's all you can do. And that's what I love about accompanying is like nobody's going to blame me for totally screwing up Rabbit at top speed because I had 30 seconds to look at it.
I did have an absolute beatdown, like big fish in small pond moment when we went to Atlanta.
So now we're going positive memories.
Oh.
No, this is negative.
the
Totally
worst.
negative.
Darn.
The worst.
I
I thought you were the big
Life-changing.
fish.
I was younger than many competitors in this area and more
12.
skilled.
12.
And so it's like I didn't mean to toot my own horn because you tell yourself that's like, you know people better than you, but they're in high school and all that stuff. And then I had some success competing and we got to a regional level and I was in the Suzuki program and I was playing a Bach concerto and then my little showpiece was a little fluffy thing in Suzuki Book 8. Well, there's 10 Suzuki books, 9 and 10 are Mozart concertos. So practically of actual volumes, there's 8 books and then 2 major concertos. And so you're like a big deal in our music school if you're in Suzuki Book 8, man. Like you're in the top 5, 10 in the whole school. And I was by far the youngest that was there. And you don't even know that there's anything existing outside of Suzuki or whatever. That's all you have. It's like growing up in a little church or a little school. You think everyone learns this way. You think
Right.
those are the
Okay,
rules
yeah.
everywhere. So that's the premise. And I had done well. And then we're down there and there's just a chance to talk to students. Okay. And so I'm talking to this kid named Joey who ended up winning.
The national.
And then he won national after that.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. Playing Carmen Fantasy. Which I would still love to play. And I'm talking to him. And he's like, hey, my name's Joey. I'm like, oh, my name's Daniel. He's like, what are you playing? And I was like, Suzuki Book 8. And he's like, what was that? And he's like, oh, like the student rep? Like he's playing major concerto stuff.
He's like, oh, you're in student dance.
And yeah, it was just like
you're
that
like-
awareness of like what you thought was like this brag.
Yeah.
And it's just like
And he had directed
That's
orchestras
funny.
in South America.
Suzuki
this
Book.
boy was
He was so
talented.
nice too.
Wow.
Yes.
He was like
That's
Suzuki Book
wonderful.
8,
I
and
love
it was
the
just
nice-
like
Nice, great people.
what?
And his mother said, you need to get out of Suzuki.
That's funny.
That was just, and then that you're just like, oh.
But it was the accompanist you're talking about. Your accompanist story.
Oh, that was. Do you want a good accompanist story?
Yeah, I think
Collaborative
I've heard this
Pianist.
one. Yeah.
So is that the A minor Bach concerto? Bum 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 ba da 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 dun.
Well, I'll have to say this part. We got there. I'd sent the music ahead. You were supposed to have rehearsal time, and the guy said, I don't need to practice. I haven't even looked at it, but I'm a good sight reader. That's what
I mean, he
told me.
was actually when we got into it. Totally was.
Okay.
But the judges were out in the dark. It was in a big auditorium, and you could not see the judges at all. We actually did a run through with him too, and it went fine. We weren't like
I
really
was not pleased.
together. Okay, that's fine. But I wasn't incredibly worried.
Mother wasn't happy.
So we walked out on the actual stage with big auditorium. Was it a college or a school or something? It was pretty intimidating. And I have one pickup note. Bum. And the piano's bum, 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 doing the Bach thing. And I'm like, I think I had to announce my name, maybe even play some scales. I don't remember. Probably not scales. And they're like, whenever you're ready. And I do the thing I always do. Big breath. Violin on my shoulder. Find my first note. Look at the pianist. He's motionless. Bow hold. Bum, 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 bum. No piano. Bum, ba da 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 da. Pianist goes, my apologies. Can we start over? And I'm like, but may I start over?
Yeah.
And the judge is like, you may begin. And it wasn't that like we missed it or whatever. It was just like the emotional racking of your pianist that you do not know
Yeah.
talking while you're playing for the biggest audition
Really
you've ever been
throws
in.
you off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you might have just had such good mojo and then you just killed it.
It wouldn't have mattered. That was the same place where I was playing Suzuki.
Oh yes.
It meant
he was
it meant nothing.
He was playing.
Only to
That's
further
I-
crush
I'm
my
like-
soul.
I always try to think the best of
Trying to
people.
escape last place, and it was like first place, alternate or something, honorable mention, and like there's only one person representing each state,
Yeah.
so there's 7 people there, and I'm from Tennessee.
Yeah. I always try to figure out like, well, what information am I missing? How can I think well of this person? Because I don't know all the information, you know. And I'm thinking, okay, so if I was in that position, it must.
What
have
would
been
it
that
take
his-
for you to talk?
It must have been that his brain went blank, because that is a very fast pickup. But he looked ready, right? So something happened to where he's like almost forgets he only has half a beat to get in. But
the judge
if you
gave
just
the go-ahead.
Yeah, if you just have one. In my opinion, if you just have one violinist you're playing for and it's that piece, you should be able to follow the violin part and jump in. You don't stop them if they're still going and affected by you not starting.
4 bars later, there's an easy.
Yeah, there's got to be an easy in somewhere. You have a rest, you have a run that's recognizable, and
Yeah.
the pianist can jump in. There should be no excuse. Now, that piece that I played the other day for you and who'd you play it with? It was, you told me why it was confusing. That there was no recognizable downbeat because it was the double. It was the double. You and Madeline were playing.
Oh yeah.
So that was a situation where if I miss the pickup, I might
Also
be
Bach,
hopelessly.
yeah.
Also Bach. I might be hopelessly lost because there's 2 parts intertwining. I can't tell which violin is making
Yeah.
each noise.
Yeah, we can't either.
Yeah.
So that would be a situation where I'd defend the pianist, but not with a solo Bach.
Oh, and
That's
it's just
rough.
the talking. It's the talking part.
Yeah.
So for any collaborative pianists out there, no matter how great you are, don't talk while the violinist is playing, 'cause it's going to wreck them.
Yeah, because they can play by themselves. They've done it 100 billion times. Let them play, and even if it takes you a full page, I would say.
I would
Find
say
your
the
spot.
judges will infer that was your fault.
Yes.
You don't have to accept the blame there.
Yeah, they'll
Don't
know,
you
and
think?
they almost won't care because they'll care about the soloist.
That is pretty crazy. Got a couple little things before we close. Just kind of some hot takes on some quick questions. What is either some unexpected advice you received, it has to be quick, or just the worst advice that you've ever received?
music?
Nope. Well, I guess
Oh.
it could be. Not constrained to music.
Worst advice.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
I have a hard time pulling memories out.
I know.
Okay.
Just
College, El Paso, Texas. Our teacher taught us to sing with tension. Extreme tension.
what?
Like
Never in
to
my
create a
life have I heard
pendulum
that.
effect type thing? Or
No,
just
to free the voice, he said.
that seems counterintuitive
Yeah.
to me.
It seems that an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Tension to free the voice.
Tension. He had a successful student make it into Germany, and he just felt like that's what he did, and so
That's
he was the
odd.
chair of the department.
I'm not convinced ice
Don't
baths
mention
help
any names.
anything.
Don't go any
It's
farther. You've
terrible.
identified it.
He has passed on now, but it was terrible, terrible,
yes.
terrible. He ruined so
Conducting
many
the
voices.
angels now.
No, I don't think
To
so.
have tension.
I'm here to conduct Heaven's Choir. Welcome.
Yeah, I've never heard such a thing.
That is so
When people
funny.
ask why opera sounds so odd if they just don't know music, or why it's so big and vibrato-y and stuff, I always tell them the opposite of that.
Yeah.
That is the most free way to sing, and that's why singers formant exists. Is they they can achieve this
I
humongous
know.
sound without
it was
tension.
absolutely terrible. That's
Opera
funny.
is not, at this point in the world, it's not pop, but at one point it was.
Oh, yeah.
It was the
It
popular
was
music.
crazy
yeah,
stuff,
everyone
right? It was the
went crazy.
combination of whatever we'd see it was like TikTok and radio and
Mm-hmm.
TV and acting and like stage. It was like all combined. It was what they had. And it was like the operatic sound might not be what you like, but it's experimenting almost like with what the human potential capability is with the voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
And for a sustained period of time.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just like you go to see the Great Pyramids and you're like, I don't really like the shape of a triangle. I prefer a circle. And it's like, no, but you're witnessing
Yeah.
I
what has
agree,
been
yeah.
done
Yes.
by humanity.
Yes, you're witnessing like a very incredible talent, whether you appreciate
Yeah.
the genre or not.
Yeah, you look
It's
at the-
it's amazing when done well.
The abyss of the ocean, and you're like, it's so vast.
Now
I don't like water.
I have fallen asleep during one or two operas.
Easy. No.
But it was
no.
Aida in my defense.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm saying that.
Yeah, but that doesn't have to mean that you
It's like
hate
4.5 hours
opera.
long.
Yeah.
Because just like
Yes.
classical
No.
music, it's like that doesn't define a song. A violinist might think la 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 la. It's like, yeah, that's in there, but there's a huge wealth of it's like, I don't like fish. in terms of what they look like. It's like, because you saw one fish, like there are crazy fish, beautiful fish, and probably some fish that you think are ugly.
Yes, there's lots to explore within opera and operettas.
Her tarantula freaked me out, but I wasn't like, I hate animals.
Right.
You know, it was just like, I'm afraid that this tarantula is going to come find me in my dreams. What are some bucket list items that you
Becca
have?
didn't tell you her bad advice.
Give me bad advice.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't really think of any, but I was mostly listening, not thinking of my own. Bad advice.
Or unexpected. Oh, you said you have trouble accessing your memories.
I do. Like when I'm trying to think of something, then I have a hard time.
You have have you seen Inside Out? With all the little things, you just have like very efficient memory storage. Just goes into long term.
But like if you asked me like what I did on a vacation this past summer, I'll be like, I don't know.
Little test. What did you eat for lunch yesterday, Mom?
Yes, I would have no clue.
Yesterday, nothing. That was easy.
She was busy. Apparently.
She probably was teaching, even though we're closed.
Yeah.
Okay. Final question. What is a bucket list item that you have, or one that you've actually checked off? That would be cool. And and then we'll adjourn. I can go first. I used to have a bunch of them written down that were just more like, as a teenager, what would I like to brag about? And it was like, I want to base jump through this. And like, I don't have an interest in base jumping. It's like, you look at the most extreme things and then you're like, this is what I'm going to do one day. Yeah. I'll tell you a recent bucket list thing, which is so dumb, but I loved it. I did a silly little Ricky Skaggs excerpt of Country Boy for our church. Did a bluegrass gig, and we brought in some other musicians, and we put on like a little bluegrass exhibition. And then at the end, we went into Ricky Skaggs' Country Boy, and I love that little violin solo in there, which I got to play, but I also got to just set the violin down and switch to piano and play the Country Boy piano solo. So doing two gimmicky things in the same song, a song that I love, back to back, in any scenario in front of people, I'm like, I just took a violin solo, followed by taking a piano solo in the same song. Bucket list, boom. So that was really fun.
That's pretty cool.
All the rest of them are pretty much performance related. I really want to get a shoe deal. Mm-hmm. That would be cool. Like some shoe place has like the Danny Dappo signature shoe.
I've never thought about that. You do like your shoes, though.
I like shoes.
I do too.
And I'm fascinated by athletes who kind of have owned the shoe market. It's like, I'm not going to be an athlete, so maybe I can skip that step, go straight to the shoe deal. That'd be awesome. And have something inspiring written inside. Chase Jarvis has a pair with K-Swiss, and it says like, creativity is a skill, and then skills crossed out, and it says habit.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah. That's cool.
Bucket list.
Me?
Anybody, I guess.
Oh, I want to see all the major parks in the United States.
The parks?
Like national parks?
Yeah.
Kiwanis?
Yellowstone.
All the
Niagara Falls.
Have you seen any of them?
No, not
Sequoia,
those. I've been to several. I've never been to Yellowstone. I've been to several states, but not to the national parks.
Have you seen Grand Canyon though? Haven't you?
Yes.
I haven't.
But I want to see all of them, especially the northern ones.
They make the little passport where you can get like a stamp in each national park and collect the stamps. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been telling my children that whenever they're going to go, tell me I'm go with them.
Cool. There's some ones not too far away too that are considered national parks.
Mm-hmm.
What's a bucket list for Becca? Becca's bucket list.
Well,
this would be a little segment.
I didn't know, two things come to mind, which were not on my bucket list, and then I'm like, yes, that's cool. Like, that should have been on my bucket list. One was sleeping overnight in the foothills of the Himalayas. That was pretty cool. Very cool. And then the other one, and she's not a well-known author, so I don't think her name would mean anything to almost anybody. But this author that I really like, I just love the way her brain works. I love the way that she writes. I looked her up because I was driving through her hometown, which I knew from the back of the books I have, that she lived in Durham, North Carolina. So I'm driving through, and I was like, I'm going to look her up on the white pages. So I literally stalk her on the white pages, find her address, go to her neighborhood, and work up the courage to go knock on her door.
Wait, addresses were publicly posted?
Sometimes they are, or it has like a few suggested.
On the directories, the phone directories, in the
some
olden days.
Yeah, it'll have some suggested addresses.
You're going to get creepers.
Yeah, and I guess I won't say her name either so that other people maybe don't bug her, but I decided to bug her. So
Okay.
I go to her house, and the front door looks like one of those front doors they don't use. So I walk into the car park area, and her side door is open. It's just the glass door, and I see her vacuuming inside. And I was like...
This is like your hero, and you see her vacuuming like a regular person?
I've seen her speak once, years ago. Love her book. So I like knock on the door, and she comes to the door, and I start telling her this like apologetic story about how I looked her up and I had read her books, and yet she cuts me off and says, "Oh, come on in," and just feeds me lunch, and we have a 2.5 hour conversation.
Oh.
So
that sounds
was
like
pretty cool.
just heavenly for you.
Yes.
I could just,
Oh.
was it like surreal while it was happening? You're like,
Yes.
is this really happening?
Yes.
So it says don't meet your heroes though, but that kind of went okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very well.
Nice.
Because
Nice.
she also, some of her books are very focused on like hospitality and kindness. So then I was like, we'll see if this
Gotcha.
actually,
You like,
right?
you like quote
See if
her
she's
book to her.
actually, if she's actually like this. And indeed she was. She just fed me, no question. And
I do feel like
had a
that
good
way
time.
about a lot of people that write leadership books, but their interpersonal skills only exist from the stage.
yeah, she's
Oh,
I
man.
can vouch
That's
for her.
super cool.
Very cool.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Blair on the Air, the podcast. Who came up with Blair on the Air? Wasn't it you?
Was it me?
Yeah, I thought it
me.
was. I was like,
I just haven't like kept track of that, but I think it was me.
yeah.
I guess.
We were at a
Yeah.
little staff meeting. We were brainstorming ideas for like a web series of
And I
our
was like,
students
Blair
performing.
on the air. I'm
Blair
like, oh, that actually
on
sounds
the
good.
Air.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll have to check that with everyone else. Make sure we're not stealing
Yeah,
credit.
somebody else can contest that.
I
'cause
give you credit.
Again, I have a bad memory, so.
Maybe someone whispered it right next to you, like, how about Blair on the Air? And you're like, yeah. How about Blair on the Air? I came up with that. That was
Yeah.
awesome. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time.